Alright guys, welcome to the build portion of the video. We're just going to run you through the gear, the POB, and explain how everything works. So we are using BoneShatter, and we're converting our damage to chaos, and then we're using a mace, the replica frost breath, which means your chaos damage can chill. Build enemies deal double damage. So we're dealing double damage, and it provides us a bit of chaos res and a bit of attack speed, weapon range, stuff like that. The helmet is basically fizz taken as fire damage recoup, and then I've got resists, life, and fizz taken as fire. The awkward thing with this build is resistances. I have a Dawnbreaker shield, which is cold, lightning, and fizz taken as fire. And then we go ahead and I've got a tree. This one was quite nice. This was strength, and armor and evasion. And then I do have increase effective chill, but doesn't really do too much, and it increases the effective chill on us, which isn't great, but hey, you know, it is what it is. We have an ashes. Now the ashes is pretty mandatory, like most things in the build, really pretty mandatory, apart from your belt, your ring and stuff like that are a bit flexible, but you need the ashes for the mana reservation. This is expensive. This cost me 28 divines. If we look at it without Whispers of Doom enchanted, it is 28 divines still. So yeah, it just popped up and it was shiny, and I just tried to get the best roll I could, and it cost 28 divines. You're more looking here for high quality as opposed to reservation, but you're gonna want, I think it's probably 13 reservation and 28 quality. There's a little bit of a break point, which helps, so just try to get as best roll you can. Main piece of the gear is an Iron Fortress, which has strength, and then strength damage applies to melee, and yeah, fizz damage per strength, stuff like that. Chance to block is unlucky, chance to block per 50 strength. I got a +1, it costs 2 divines to purchase exactly like this. No idea what they cost now, 7 divines, but yeah, this costs 2 divines. And now the rings we have, well, how I did this was I got a originally what I had was just a ton of resistances on the ring, chaos res, stuff like that. I ended up dropping a little bit of chaos res because I needed more damage really for super endgame content, and I ended up using the essences that give chaos damage, and I just spammed them till I got strength, and I used them on a topaz ring with fractured chaos, and on this one I did it the other way around. An amethyst ring with fractured fire, and I did the same thing, chaos damage, strength. This is like a tier 3 strength roll, so this could be much better, tier 4 actually, so I could remake this. And then what I did was for this specific ring, wiped the prefixes because they were rubbish, and then suffix can't be changed, ailing, just because I had an ailing from farming betrayal, and then I put life on it. The gloves, 3% damage per strength, that's nice. And there's 2 ways you can do it. If you're not going to be doing any super endgame bossing, you don't really need rage on hit. You can just get this node here, which is non-val skill, strike an extra target. However, to keep my stacks up on bosses, I went full rage, and then I just took an extra passive point on the tree. Here, I just got ones that had perfect suffixes, almost. I think they were like 20C, and then I wiped them, and I kept using Eldritch Chaos Orbs to get life, and then I just exalted. And then putting the +1 in there to get +1 to Purity of Fire, so it's 23. The belt is % strength, and I used strength essences until I got something useful, which was double res and life. Bear in mind, don't think you need some double implicit one. I just happened to get that. It was 120C. I don't know how much these belts are. That's what I paid for it. And then I just spammed essences on it. And then the key unit here that you definitely need is a Alberon's Warpath. These are 5.5 divines. So these used to be super expensive. They're not really super expensive anymore. There's a shiny pair right there for 5.5 divs. And yes, I know that's expensive, but they are like your end game piece of gear. Yeah. So like I say, one just popped up. I think I paid 6 for mine. They were gold and they just popped up at 6. So I was like, I'll grab them. Now, the flasks we use charge when hit. This is really important. These flasks are super important. Your full melee, your full tank, this gives you permanent flask charges. You're basically like kind of mini mage blood pathfinder. So I just have extra res in case I get cursed, reduce shock, attack speed, and reduce curse. And then I have a life flask. I did do, as you've seen in the video, an Uber Maven Witness Cortex. And in one of the cortexes I got a bottled faith. You can sub that in because you don't really need the life flask at all. It's just bleed really, but there are ways to get around bleed if you want to get a jewel or something. So what we're doing with the links and everything like that is we have Berserk, that's to expunge all our rage, and we always have rage because of like a few cool techniques which I've never seen before. And again, I didn't make this POB, I yoinked it off some Russian dude off POB Ninja, don't know who he is, and I've just kept working on the build and doing my own little spin on it. So we have Phantasmal Leap Slam faster attacks. Phantasmal basically just gives him more attack speed, increased attack speed, so you jump faster, so I went with that. Awakened Hex Touch, this was like 25C for an awakened one. Despair, Divergent Arctic Armor, and Phantasmal Vengeance. Now, Phantasmal Vengeance is crucial. I left this late. I didn't really realise how important it was. This gives you rage on a hit when you're counter-attacking, and during mapping, it just basically helps you sustain, like, no problem. Divergent Arctic Armor, basically, if you see, you take less fizz damage and less fire when stationary, which is great for us. Then we have Molten Shell. It was just regular Molten Shell, but I got rid of a few things and I went for a Val Molten Shell. Anomalous Withering Step just means we apply, if you see, extra withered, 4 withered steps the first time we enter in. Ancestral Protector, you actually can get, I think it is Anomalous Ancestral Protector, which provides more attack speed. On the gloves, we have D-Term, Purity of Fire, Anomalous Arrogance, and Vitality. This, basically, if you see, all this is doing is letting us reserve slightly more life efficiency. So this can be like a very, very late upgrade. You're going to save like 100 life there. It really doesn't make too much of a difference. Divergent Warlord's Mark, Anomalous Cast when damage taken, Anomalous Dread Banner, and Battle Mage. So these were things that late on into the build I didn't really have set up. Now that I've got them set up, I kind of understand how the build works. Basically, you're cursing an enemy when stunned, and you're pretty much always stunning the little squishies when mapping. So you're going to get 24 rage. You're then going to counter-attack with Vengeance and get rage, and then you can just basically be perma-berserk, which is great. Anomalous cast when damage taken just basically means you can take... it lasts longer, more skill duration. And Anomalous Dread Banner just means that the nearby enemies deal 4% less damage, which always helps. And that's kind of it. And I have a weapon swap, which just has BoneShatter and Culling Strike, because some like Ubers I want to kill, or some big shapers I want to cull. And also what this means is, because our damage is very similar, we can just start, get a couple kills, swap back, and then map, and we'll have permanent rampage. So what you need to just kind of know is try not to have your auras in your shield or weapon, just because when you swap it will obviously switch them off if you are doing the rampage strat. The actual like passive tree is pretty crazy really for a standard build, but it's interesting. So effectively we're getting max res here because our boots and armor have armor, we have max res. We've gone into this cluster jewel, which gives chaos damage, strength, int, and increase effect. So all of these nodes are giving us 8 strength, 10 int. For the longest time, I just made... These are both self-made, by the way, just with alteration spamming. And I just would alteration spam till I saw 35%, augment, regal, and then if it was decent, I might exalt again, and then I might try a null save. And this worked out cheaper than spending divine after divine after divine trying to imprint a perfect one, just because imprints are so expensive and alterations are pretty cheap. So because this has given us so much intelligence, this wheel, for the longest time I just had a load of int on my rings, and eventually once I got the currency to upgrade, that's when I started to put strength on these and chaos damage. Key things to note, I guess, warning call gives you armor. You've got lead by example, which gives onslaught, and this just has strength. You can also put in a split personality here as well, but I just wanted cannot have corrupting blood. There's also some other options on the tree that you can do. So I've taken this wheel so I get life when I get Warcry. Maybe if I tweaked my tree a little bit, I'd like some recovery rate so I can spam a bit more often, because it is pretty important, to be honest, to have that up as much as possible. So there's always rejigging happening with these trees. What you can do is head down here and go to Panopticon, if that's how you pronounce it, which gives you 50% effect of your totems, which is a huge amount of attack speed, makes your totems tankier, and obviously you're getting strength along the way. And drop this wheel. And drop this wheel here isn't needed. I just was experimenting with all my points, and I also put points here. So to explain what's happening here is just a res jewel, Iron Will, and then this is converting this node is corrupting Eternal Youth into Corrupting Soul, which gives us extra ES and double +1 max res. And then this node down here, I just spotted it. I didn't purchase it for this reason. I noticed it gives increased chaos damage and withered, so I've been messing around with that. Not too sure if that's good or bad. The other key thing to note is Divine Shield. I didn't really notice how powerful this was until I got it, but as you can see, you're just constantly like leeching shield. And basically, because we're preventing so much fizz damage, we have so much life regen and so much sort of ES regen that we can just sit and tank. This dual socket has aggressive defense for Fortify. It has Overlord for Fortify. And then I have a Megalomaniac, which gives Molten One's Mark, which is again more max fire res. Now here, technically you can get a much better one, but I was experimenting with stuff, and I do feel like this sometimes helps the explode. 10% chance to explode, so I went and got one with Unspeakable Gifts, and then this one doesn't really do anything for me. And then the last one is a melding. What a melding basically does, if you didn't know, because I didn't know before I used one, it takes a load of your res off, and it takes a load of your max res off, which doesn't sound great. Now technically, maybe I'd be better to take the melding out, now that I'm thinking about this, when I'm doing a Feared, or I'm doing an Uber at Zeri, or I'm doing an Uber Exarch, because I would now have 90 fire res. But what this does is obviously it takes off 4 max res, right? And it then what's the word? It bumps up the others to match your max res. So instead of having 90, 80, 80, I have 87 all, which is great for mapping. But now that I just thought about this out loud, maybe there's some potential there, because I could take the melding out, I could lose the +1 res, get another passive point. There's some options there that might help. I have a Watcher's Eye, which is just fizz taken as fire and determination. This cost 2 divines. Don't know how much it is now. 1 divine. So yeah, these aren't too expensive. So yeah, you can pick one of them up. Maybe you can get a better one. Vitality, life gained on hit, something like that would be pretty sick. But yeah, there'll be a link to the POB. So obviously, you know, you can copy that. How would I describe the build? I'd describe the build as unbelievably tanky. I've made it to level 99, just finished leveling before I went off, and then did a Feared. And spoiler, I did brick the Feared. I got to the point where I had basically the Cortex boss, which you've seen I can tank, and I had Uber at Zeri, But GGZII was just so quick, even on a white field, that when I tried to weave in damage, I just spent 5-6 minutes running around the arena trying to get in to deal damage, and I just couldn't. If I was to go and redo that field, I think I'd take an Ignite Flask. I think I'd take a Life Flask because I didn't use a Life Flask. And I think I might even remove the melding and then try tank more Flame Blast and be a bit more aggressive. But it's my first time doing like uber content on complete melee, so it's a learning curve. But maybe you guys can do it. The blue one, the blue Eater of Worlds boss was great. I thought that was manageable, quite fun as well. But that's kind of the build. It's been an experience. I think it's probably the best mapper I've ever had in terms of chill. Because, look, it's kind of slow compared to these, like, insane bow builds that are out there. But it's... You can do every single Crucible 100% no matter what. Basically, the only mod that wrecks you is, like, non-curse aura when you lose, like, a ton of your res, basically. Basically, max res kind of wrecks you, but apart from that, you're pretty much good. Also, yeah, the rings have minus mana cost on them, so this doesn't cost any mana. But I just mapped all the way and didn't die. I've died once on this character to 99 whilst mapping, and it was I went into a map, I killed a whole pack, they exploded, chain exploded, all these bearers came down on shocked ground, and because I just started the map, the flasks weren't on, and I think I got shocked on top of like 30 lightning bearers, and I died. And that was because I wasn't even looking at my screen. Otherwise, I could have just jumped out the way of the bearers, right? But it's basically immortal. I don't like using those words, but for all intents and purposes, compared to like a squishy bow build, it's pretty immortal. And that allows you to just put some music on and just play the game and enjoy and get into a bit of a flow. So it's not very fast. It's not like some crazy bosser or anything like that, but it can do delve really well, and it can... If you're just looking, you have a lot of currency, you just hate dying, and you just want to log in and just get through some maps and do the content, this can do it. Because a lot of the time you'll think to yourself, oh, should I open that metamorph inside of these crazy altar mods? Should I do a fully charged Crucible here? This might kill me. Whereas this one, I just get to do all of the content and not think, oh, can I do it? So for me, it's been really, really fun. I don't think I'm going to do another character, to be honest. I might try a ranged... kind of strength stacking build, seeing as I've got some of the gear. But for now, I'm just going to work on some of the challenges. Just map work on the challenges. Still need to get that feared down. Maybe I'll have to pay for the feared because it's pretty difficult. I'm not trying to sell this as some insane build. Obviously, this is softcore. If you have omega damage, you can just blow everything up. I've done that loads of times on my channel. I just wanted to try something a bit different with the whole melee. The reason for it was I started the league as an Onigarashi, and I asked my chat basically, shall we go full ranged DPS bow guy, or shall we try and make this absolute tank unit of a guy? And we went for the tank option, and it's been pretty fun. So yeah, pretty fun. So hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, leave a comment, leave a like. If you want to go a step further, subscribe to twitch.tv/GGZ or become a member of the channel. Thank you.